one of them. So today we have a session on Web 3.2. So unless you're hiding under a rock, we know you have heard of Bitcoins and blockchain. After all, these are trending terms in media and these the buzzwords of the year. So even the people who haven't even mined a single cryptocurrency are talking about it. So you might be fascinated about it too. So to indulge you in the world of Web 3.0, we have a guest of honor, Mr. Anshul Rustaggi. No words would be enough to describe him. He's an IIT IIM graduate, a startup founder, has been a guest in various podcast shows such as the Ranveer Show and the Raj Shamani one, and the accolade list continues. We are very grateful to him that he has given his precious time to introduce us to the Web 3.0. Sir, the stage is all yours.
Hi, thank you, Yogesh. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. It's great to always speak to all of you at college because you are definitely defining the future of everything we do, including technology and in particular Web3 as well. So I think what I'm going to do is to set context, I'll go through a little bit of a monologue first as to what we view about things that are happening in Web3, what we have seen so far, what our views are about what are going to happen. And then I would really love the second part of our session to be very interactive, very happy to answer any questions that people have with regards to entrepreneurship in Web3, entrepreneurship in general, Web3 in general. So I think that's sort of my agenda. In case there is anything that needs to be added, please let me know. So let me just give you first an overview of, why are we in this case of Web3, right? Now, I'm sure a lot of you have read or listened to the transition that has happened from Web 1.0, which was really us using web pages, email, to Web 2.0, which is really social media oriented apps, to Web 3.0, which is now a culmination of crypto, the metaverse, AI, ML sort of techniques as well inside it. And it's definitely the next evolution. So how did we get here, right? See, what the internet did was that there was always a very high cost to exchange information, right? There was a high cost both in terms of time it took, as well as the amount of resources it took to transfer information, whether that's writing a letter and someone taking it on post via a horse or a ship or an airplane or even your normal cars to communicating through telephone. The costs were a lot higher. What internet did first is actually made the marginal cost of communication almost negligible, right? What that meant with is we just went into an environment where information sharing was free, right? Like interestingly, I was watching this video of Bill Gates, and he was trying to explain the internet when Web 1.0 had just started, and the presenter was actually mocking the internet because we had just gone through the bubble of 99 2000. And the presenter said, oh, recently I heard that a baseball game, you could listen to the live commentary. And he's like, well, radio is already there, why do you need it? I think the thing that was really missed by the person saying this is radio is only limited to certain frequencies and to certain geographies, right? Whereas the internet wasn't. So I, in India, could have listened to that baseball game, whereas I can't tune into an American radio to actually listen to it. So this globalization of information was the first wave. The second wave, which was Web 2.0, was actually the entire wave of interacting with each other almost real time, right? So whether that's games, whether that's social media where we like or comment or do live streaming, the conversation that we do in real life could now be mirrored on the internet as well. So the amount of communication and interaction we were doing took another leap. And that's why you started seeing a lot more businesses, particularly social media, started to get a lot more attention. So now what are we doing in Web3? In Web3, there are three main changes that we are bringing on top of a communication layer, which is Web 1.0, an interaction layer, which is Web 2.0. And the three things are experience, economy, and ownership. So I'll first start with the last one, which is ownership. This is something that most people talk about because of cryptocurrency, that, everything is centralized. Google and Meta, which is Facebook, are sort of, the evil empires who are taking our data and selling that data to other companies for their own profit. And ownership has become really important because of the financial crisis that we went through in 2008 and 2009. So some part of it is true, right? Peer-to-peer communication. At the end of it, the institutions are a vehicle for enabling economy, interaction, trade, and commerce between humans. And humans are the important element. Institutions aren't, right? So um, a great part is that we had to go centralized and institutionalized because trust is really centralized, right? You can't get the speciality for everyone to just assess what is happening, whether that's financial institutions or some sort of regulatory law. And the other part was from a pure cost perspective, right? If we all start communicating with each other, it was still going to be very expensive. So we had to set up hardware like what we do with cloud servers, and most of your Web 2 companies are hosted on the likes of AWS and Microsoft Azure, etc. From a pure cost efficiency, it had to go to a centralized platform. But as technology has developed, as costs have come down even more, it is now possible that at low cost, we are able to go back to peer-to-peer communication without going through an intermediary. So now we can really go back and we have a open source format where we can remain the owner of our own data, right? And that data can be anything. That data can be a digital asset. That data can be a virtual art. That data can be my resume. That data can be my patient record. That data can be the insurance policies I have. That data can be the list of phone numbers I have. So the ownership will truly go back to me. I wouldn't need to depend on a centralized agency to actually hold that data for me because the costs have lowered. So ownership is really transferring back to the consumers. And this is a very big trend, right? And this has really, like I said, become possible through the decentralized ledger technology. Now, decentralized ledgers, by the way, are already being used quite a lot in our telecom industry already, right? So what you see in the DND list, the spam list, is actually on a decentralized ledger network. It's not crypto because there is no crypto tokens being done, but it's actually a decentralized ledger network that they actually use. So this technology has been around for a while, but now it's really available to each individual like us. The second part is economy, right? Now, for the longest time, um, obviously we have currencies of the governments, right? So we can only use that as a currency to do any business. We started to get some parallel economies, right? Like loyalty cards is a great example. Every business which gives you loyalty points is actually trying to create their own economy because they are saying, you know what, we are putting some restrictions. We are not going to give you back rupee because if we give you rupee, you can take that rupee to anybody. But if I give you some Vistara club points for flying Vistara airline, you can only use them against Vistara. Or if you redeem them, then there are certain rules I define, right? So you saw the rise of loyalty points, of currency points. Cred is a great example, right? All Cred did was actually asked you that, listen, pay your credit card bill through me. I will give you some free points, but oh, by the way, you can only redeem those points on my app. In essence, all they have done is create a new form of economy by which they are trying to expand. Tata Neo app, I presume most of you would know, the new Tata Neo app, which is trying to get all their digital businesses under one
Everything in one
app.
app. Know about Tata app.
Sorry, I thought someone was saying something. Okay. The Tata Neo app, as all they were again trying to do is form a new economy by giving you Neo points, right? They had, because each of their businesses had separate loyalty points. And what Tata Neo does is make those loyalty points interoperable. right? So pretty much like we talk about different cryptocurrencies, that interoperability is important. That is exactly what Tata Neo did. Now, of course, Tata Neo isn't a crypto token. Yes, Tata Neo is also not a blockchain, is not on the blockchain because it is completely controlled by Tata Neo. But if they gave that power to the users, it's pretty much a private blockchain currency, right? So this economy or this idea of economy is not new. Businesses have been now trying to do this for the last couple of decades. And the advantage of doing it via a cryptocurrency or via NFTs is that again, you open source it, right? So the beauty of, like, imagine if Tata Neo was actually a public blockchain. What you could do as a business is you could say, you know what, Tata Neo already has a lot of consumers. I want to go on their platform, right? I want to start giving benefits to my users in Tata Neo. They have already built a lot of infrastructure. They will charge me something for it, like Shopify charges me as a business or Amazon charges me. Let them charge me. But because they have so many users who have Tata Neo coins, I will go on their platform and create a business, right? They can obviously have some criteria. Amazon has some criteria. Every other public blockchain will have some criteria to let you in or kick you out if you do something which is against the rules. And if you do that and create that as an open source platform, you have now massively increased your economy, right? So if it works for all Tata businesses, the logic would say that it should actually be much more valuable if that is open source. And so this idea of economy, that we can now define different parts of economy and different parts of giving benefits to the users and consumers and producers, is actually very powerful, which will create some new economic models. Now, obviously, we are at the beginning of innovation, and all of the play to earn and the staking rewards has so far failed. But there is a lot of innovation on economic models that is happening. And we will see as early as in the next 2 to 3 years, a lot of new economic models succeeding, right? So just if there is one point you have to take back from it, all cred is actually a new economic model. All Tata Neo is a new economic model, right? So imagine such one really big startup cred and one really large, massive organization of India are just betting very big businesses on just an innovation on the economic side. So that's the second part of Web3. And you get access to this technology. Everyone gets access to this technology now, right? That's the beauty of it. The last part is experience, right? Now, as we see, whether that's education, right? Duolingo, which is learning language, is a great example. Lot of gamification in it, right? The other is, if you see Robinhood app, which was a trading app in the US, gained a lot of popularity. A lot of Indian companies like Grow Up Stocks, etc., also are in that area. I will not go to say that they copied it, but a lot of these apps, which are financial apps, have started to bring gaming-like features inside their apps. Why is that the case? Because obviously, as businesses compete with each other, you have to give a better experience to the consumer, right? Like, think about your UPI, right? Now, for UPI, you have PhonePe, Google Pay, Paytm, MobiKwik, tons of UPI apps. Credit is in UPI also now. So UPI is UPI, right? All of these guys have some sort of license with RBI. So I will kind of trust all of them because they are all regulated. And if I'm doing UPI, it really shouldn't matter much whether I do it through PhonePe or Google Pay, right? But if you see Google Pay, for those of you, I'm sure a lot of you use Google Pay. What they've done is they give you levels. The more you do payments through UPI, the more scratch cards they give you, the better your level goes. Right now, they ran a campaign of you building floors. The more floors you built, the more cashback you got. What is that idea? That idea is to enhance your experience and almost make it like a game, right? So the entire point of the world saying, oh my God, everything is going to move to the metaverse, one aspect of it is things will get more gamified. By the way, that's already happening, right? This isn't the idea of, oh my God, is it going to happen? Has been happening, will continue to happen and accelerate. The other part of the metaverse, which is very much focused on virtual reality, augmented reality, and Facebook or Meta is trying to build everything with the Oculus headsets. I doubt that virtual reality will be the way the metaverse comes. But the larger picture is that, if you see the current social media, how did it evolve? We first started communicating primarily through text, right? Facebook was primarily they used to have a wall feature. Maybe a lot of you are very young to remember to have used that feature when it first came out, because Facebook in '04 when it launched, it just had a wall feature where I could go and visit your wall and I had to see the updates. There was no feed, right? They launched the feed in 2008, was primarily text driven, right? Then Instagram really revolutionized that, and we started getting pictures. Then TikTok and obviously YouTube started doing videos. TikTok really revolutionized social media via short videos, right? Obviously, after the TikTok ban, now Instagram Reels, which is the same idea, is the popular one. So, and what have we seen? What we have seen is saturation in Facebook. The app is dying. There is already saturation, by the way, in Instagram. And most measures tell you that Instagram is saturated. Number of users are going away because people are kind of bored, right? They have been using this for a long time and people are bored. This doesn't mean that these businesses will die, right? Like people, when apps came out, a lot of people thought no one will do anything on websites. Websites still exist and website will continue to exist, but the growth in apps, mobile apps, overtook whatever was happening on web traffic, right? Particularly in countries like India. Similarly, we will evolve from video to the next thing. Now, is the next thing 3D environments which you play on mobile? Is it virtual reality? Is it augmented reality? Is it mixed reality? Obviously, we can have a large discussion, but the idea is that the current media that we are consuming, we are getting saturated and we need the next evolution, right? And that's the mindset, in my view, what Zuckerberg has. He already sees his current businesses are saturating and hence there is no growth. And he has to take a step. Now, I don't agree that the step he has taken is going to work out, but that's just my view. But the beauty or the brilliance of what he's doing is at least he realizes that what he has currently is dying. He needs to innovate, and he has taken a very large step to go towards that innovation. And I feel that metaverse, whether it's the VR format, the 3D model in mobile format, whichever format, has to come because the current social media and network is actually, like I said, dying, right? And that experience or the elevation of experience where people again get excited, we see another spurt of growth for businesses and consumer alike, is the reason that brands even today, in spite of whatever is happening with Bitcoin or NFT sales or whatever, are more excited than they were even 6 months back to explore the metaverse. And which is why you saw Mahindra launch their metaverse recently. And we know because we talk to a lot of brands that you will see probably all the biggest brands in India launch their own metaverse in 2023. Whether that will work or not is not my point. My point is eventually someone will figure out a large application like Facebook app or Instagram app or a TikTok app equivalent where the metaverse will become a big mass popularized application, and then eventually a lot of commerce moves to it. Because what we will be able to do in the metaverse is now integrate commerce with it very easily because we have ownership, we actually have various ways of economy, and we are actually able to give you a larger experience. So the beauty of Web3 is that, like we moved from a communication layer of Web 1 to an interaction layer of Web 2, and we did a major step change, what will happen in Web 3 will be a much, much larger step change where we are able to integrate sort of ownership, economy, as well as experience. So I think that's where we are moving in Web 3. That's the role that the metaverse plays in this entire part. And that's why everyone is still very, very excited. Like any new technology adoption, nothing is in a straight line. Everybody got too excited. There is a little bit of, you know, tempering of that enthusiasm or excitement right now. Um, and we are going to see a massive amount of growth. And the beauty of the growth is I graduated from IIT Delhi in 2001. So when I was in 99, everyone started talking in India about doing a tech startup. But when the tech bubble burst in the US in 2000, it almost, it was definitely not a choice, right? Like if anyone said, hey, I'm going to do technology and Amazon used to recruit from IIT Delhi at that time, people were very worried, right? And I kind of see the same thing happening now, but everybody who took the leap and went towards technology, even if you were an average coder or an average business person who stuck with technology, you got disproportionately better returns, disproportionately better responsibilities and growth if you stuck with that growth factor. And that's what I really believe is now happening in the Web3 space as well. So I think with that, maybe I can just pause here and see if people have any questions or if there is a specific area that you want me to delve a little more into.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, like you said that blockchain will be the future. So many startups will evolve who will give software as a service in terms of blockchain. So
Mhm.
how like Google, Oracle, and other giants are doing the same stuffs. So how can they compete with how can the new budding startups compete with the originally trusted ones?
I'm actually glad that you as a student is asking this question, because this is, by the way, the most common question that every venture capital firm asks a startup, right? The most common question asked is, oh, if this idea is so great, why wouldn't Google, Facebook do it, right? Um, and my first rebuttal to that is, if Google and Facebook could do everything, they would have done everything, right? But they haven't. Like Google has tried many times to create a social media app, it failed, right? Facebook tried to copy TikTok. It actually had an app called Lasso. So you guys can go back and check. It was an exact copy of TikTok. They launched it in Latin America, miserably failed. When TikTok got banned in India, before they did Instagram Reels, by the way, they considered to relaunch Lasso in India. But then they thought that we'll just combine it inside of Instagram, right? Now, let's look at why is that the case, right? Like, does Google not have the best engineers or Facebook does not have the best engineers and employees? Of course they do. Can they pay a lot more than a startup, even with VC funding? Of course they can, because they are much larger. They will have much larger investors. They are public companies. So what is the difference, right? The difference is that, in my view, there are two. One is the desire, right? Like Google's desire to succeed, like their founders are already retired, right? Um, their desire to innovate and take risk is obviously not there, right? Like as a startup where we are in totality versus where Google is, I don't have a lot to lose. I have everything to gain. They have a lot to lose if they take a risk and it bombs. Like Zuckerberg is a great example, right? He is only like I will say he's only spending 10 billion on what is clearly that idea may not work, right? Like I don't think it will work, but he knows his current business is dying. Yet because of his share price, everyone is like, this guy is an idiot, replace him as a CEO, etc. Right? Because there was so much to lose and they have lost so much value, right? So you are not able to take that risk. Even your desire goes down because you are successful. Plus, even if you want to, other people will not let you take that risk. That's one. The other is just DNA of the company, right? Now, the DNA is that if you are very good at Google as a search engine, as an information business, it's very difficult for you to suddenly say, oh, by the way, now we are going to become a social media company. Oh, you know what? Now we're just going to become a blockchain company. Oh, you know what? Now we'll start doing Web3 gaming, right? Because it's not about the technical skills, right? Of course, people can learn the technical skills, but how do you get the consumer insights, right? How motivated are you every day to get those consumer insights, to understand them? And so, I think this DNA is probably the most important factor as to why companies can't just go ahead and do everything. Right now, Elon Musk has been a great example so far, but you have to remember that Elon Musk is primarily an investor. Tesla was the first company that he invested in, which he started operating, and then he moved on to Twitter. And right now, there is a lot of shit happening with both Twitter as well as with Tesla in terms of what is happening with its share price as well, right? So it's not easy. Yes, is Elon Musk brilliant and smart, and does he know how to run big organizations? No question about it. But does that mean that you can go from an EV company to suddenly a social media company on Twitter and say, hey, it doesn't matter, I use Twitter and hence I can build Twitter? I don't think it's that easy. The DNA of the company is something that it's impossible to change, right? Like today, we are a 50 full-time startup, right? So in terms of startup, we are decent size, but in terms of tech companies, we are very small, right? But I can already tell you that a 50 people company is already like a Titanic, right? If I have to move it, it's not like because I have to move it with the idea that all the team members are motivated to change the direction. That's not easy to do, right? Like think about if it's the four friend of you sitting down and figuring out where to order food from, that itself is a challenge, right? Like when my extended family decides to go on a vacation, it probably takes a month to get everybody ki yaar Goa jana hai ya Kerala jana hai ya Kashmir jana hai ya kahan jana hai. It's a big deal. But think about now you are betting your career and you are betting real money and taking real risk to convince 50 people that we are going to go in this direction and let's be all enthusiastic about it is not easy. So imagine doing it for 50,000 people, right? So that DNA is tough to change, and hence it doesn't matter whether Facebook comes or Google comes or SAP comes. Startups will always come with the idea. There will always be a certain growth they'll be able to get. And no one can do everything. It's just not possible.
Thank you, sir. Like many of the startup enthusiasts of IIT BHU are planning to go forward for a blockchain startup. Like,
Mhm.
sir, how can they connect you? Like, if they want guidance, because uh, this sector lacks mastery in the certain aspects. So we need certain guidance about this. So how can we approach you?
So I think the best way to approach me is either message me on LinkedIn. You can connect with me on LinkedIn after this, and everybody from IIT BHU I'll accept on my LinkedIn, or you can just DM me on Twitter. Um, See, in general, I always help anyone who is an entrepreneur because I am an entrepreneur, and if particularly you're looking to do something in Web3, then that motivates me even more. We are otherwise as well. We also invest in startups. So we have invested in some very early companies of IIT Bombay, of IIT Delhi, graduates as well who are doing Web3 startups, and it's not public yet. So very happy to consider whatever help we can give. I think the one advice, however, I would give particularly to all of you as engineers is, what ends up happening, what I see is that people get extremely excited about the technology part, which is great, right? Like I see a lot of engineers come and say, oh my God, I have created this smart contract and this smart contract is just going to rule the world, right? Like nothing will exist after this smart contract. And I'm just trying to give an example that, yeah, that's great. You should be very passionate about technology, and technology truly makes a big difference and it's a truly big edge. But a business needs technology, right? But a business can exist without technology as well. Tons of businesses are there, right? Why am I saying this is the business case? What is the user's problem that you are solving? Why should the user use your business or your smart contract? What is the real life problem you are solving for them is much more important than how you are using the technology to solve it, right? Till there is a real problem to solve and you have a solution which then gets solved by a technology that has come up, which is either a blockchain or a smart contract, etc., only then will it be valuable, right? And unfortunately, I would say that even now, 90% of Web3 businesses we are an NFT marketplace. We are a crypto marketplace. We are giving you crypto loans. We are giving you staking rewards. That era is over. Some of it will come back because it wasn't as good as we thought it was 9 months back. It hasn't as bad as it looks today. The reality is somewhere in the middle. But those aren't great ideas. Like that market is done, right? OpenSea is massive in NFT. By saying you are going to be another NFT place, no, Like, yes, Flipkart was able to become a bigger competitor for India than Amazon, but it was very touch and go for a really long time. And Flipkart couldn't exist today without the backing of Walmart, right? So OpenSea is there. There are probably tons and tons of NFT marketplaces. So you would really have to go and think about the problem you are solving. And by saying that, I get a lot of people come to me and say, hey, here is OpenSea's NFT contract. And this is what we have written as a standard, which is better. Now to the user, they don't really care, right? The user unfortunately does not know that, the 720 contract is, the 721 is great, or what should I really look at the contract, because they're not really looking at the contract. What they will really know is what is the utility you are providing, and can they verify what is the utility you are providing. So I think the focus should be on that, and till the time the focus is on the user's problem, this is an excellent area to build and an excellent time to build it in. By the way, last thing I'll say on this is, even though startup funding has decreased in every other area, in Web3 startup funding is still very, very healthy, right? So those of you who are building in Web3, blockchain, metaverse, NFTs, still a great time to raise money to actually build your startup. So I would highly encourage it if you were already planning to do it.
Sir, as we know, everything has pros and cons.
Yeah.
So we have, and Web3 is highlighted daily in media and other news articles. What can be the consequences of Web3?
You mean like the negative consequences of Web3?
Yeah, sir, negative ones, the disadvantages.
Um, See, obviously, okay. So first, I'll tackle the thing that is highlighted most in Indian media is obviously the RBI's view, which came out recently also about private cryptocurrency, and everyone in India is taking a victory lap, saying, "Oh, we saved India." They really didn't, because I think India had the second highest number of users in the world. Some people say it was the highest number of crypto users. Um, and US, a lot of these companies were supposed to be regulated, but like what the issue that happened with FTX still happened in the US, even though they were a separate entity, right? So will private cryptocurrencies come and replace rupee? As I said, that's not the point, right? The point isn't to replace rupee, right? Like, that's kind of like saying, is Tata Neo replacing rupee now? Like, the Neo coins you get, is it replacing rupee? In a way, you can say that some of it they are, right? Because if for every purchase I make on Tata, they give me 5% cash back, now 5% less rupee I need to spend on anything I purchase through Tata Neo. So is that replacement of rupee? No, there isn't, right? So I think it's a little bit um, a wrong notion that cryptocurrencies are here to replace government issued money, right? Like, I don't think government issued money is going anywhere, because we need to pay taxes, because we need to have at least armed forces, the road, right? Like, we are not going to go into a world where each of us will start putting some Ethereum and then someone will come and build the road next to us, right? It's not going to happen. Or it's not going to happen like, hey, let's bid for the best army in the world and mercenaries will come and protect us. Again, not going to happen. And I don't think I want that to happen, because people who are just going to protect us for money are really not going to protect us, right? So the army needs to be, is a specialized force. There is a discipline that is needed for it. There is a mission and passion they need to have for it, which they do. And taxes are required for defense spending, research spending, infrastructure spending, and hence government money can't go anywhere, right? So I think private cryptocurrencies replacing the dollar or rupee is a misnomer, right? So that's one, right? So the risk of that is, in my view, negligible. The risk that a lot of people say that, hey, blockchain or Bitcoin is being used by smugglers and the mafia to launder money. So there was a research done by one NGO. I think this was 1.5 years back. Only 0.5% of Bitcoin was actually used for smuggling. But in terms of USD cash, like dollar notes, 7% of dollar notes were actually used for smuggling, mafia, and criminal activities, right? Now that number alone isn't so it's 7% versus 0.5%. I mean, by that logic, someone can also say, like, let's ban dollar cash, because 7% of it is being used for illegal activities, right? Now, unfortunately, technology is a tool. that tool can also be used for bad things, right? Like internet isn't just used for good things. We had Silk Road, we had Silk Road 2. The social media is also used by stalkers, is also used by pedophiles. That's unfortunate. So we will have to protect people, right? So there is definitely a need to regulate it. There is definitely a need to moderate it. But stopping something like stopping a technology and stopping progress because there is some element of danger isn't the right thing, right? So I feel that like everything, Web3 is also a great technology, a great tool. Can it be misused? Yes. Should we ban it because of that? Absolutely not. Do we need to moderate it? Yes. Does that mean that the government should come and control it like all our crypto exchanges are happening? Absolutely not. I think crypto exchanges are just asking that government should come and regulate it so that they can get a better valuation from the investors and do IPO, but it's completely retarded, right? Like, why will you want the government to start regulating you for cryptocurrency, right? Maybe you can say everyone needs to get KYC done. Government needs to know that there is anti-money laundering act which is followed. Yes, do all that. Yes, maybe put it in the RBI, but saying like all these guys want to create monopoly business, right? What they want is that a coin DCX or a coin switch becomes the NSE or BSE, and then they become very, very valuable. But the entire idea of Web3, like I said, is it's peer to peer, right? Why do I have to, the reason I have to go through BSC is a long list of regulation that happened on the stock market, right? And most exchanges, by the way, are dead, right? There used to be a Delhi Stock Exchange, but it's dead now. There is no more Delhi Stock Exchange, right? So there were many competing stock exchanges where predominantly now you have only two, BSE and NSE, and no industry does well if it is monopolized. And the very tenet of what we are trying to do in Web3 is to give the power back to each of us, because institutions are created for our need. We are not here to serve their needs, right? So it's ridiculous for me to hear that we want to have a NSE, BSE equivalent of these businesses. Of course, if I am Coin DCX, Coin Switch, or WazirX, I would want to become the next BSE, right? Because then I become really valuable. But from a user perspective, that's a horrible thing for us to happen, right? So I just wanted to make that clear.
So thank you for elaborating this. Like we weren't able to get these insights while reading articles. Like knowing from the expert itself matters a lot. Sir, at last, sir, gaming has been stigmatized in India. Like people doesn't like parents always force to study instead of playing games. Like your platform, like as I know, Xeonverse and Total Capitality, in which you are working right now, is basically based on mystical India. Like you are just portraying it as a game. So how can this help students? Like how can we change the perception it can bring to the society?
um, Look, I think, okay, so I'll say a couple of things. A lot of parents come to me and they get excited that, oh, wow, good that you have mythology and Indian culture, because they feel like they will interact with it, and their children will start learning about Ramayana and Mahabharata, right? Um, and I just want to make sure that our app or what we are building isn't about educating people. It is about experiencing our culture, right? And education and experience are unfortunately two very different things, particularly in a country like India, right? Now, as far as we think about education, it is like, beta betho, here are the facts about your culture. Now रटना चालू करो कि आपका 420 AD में क्या हुआ था, 50 BC में क्या हुआ था, 4000 साल पहले महाभारत हुई थी तो क्या हुआ था, एंड इफ आई आस्क यू अ क्वेश्चन आप रट के बता दो. The experience is that you really get the values of what the beauty of the Indian culture and mythology is, why we do certain things that we do. Some of those are relevant today. Actually, all of them are relevant today, but the rituals may not be relevant because we aren't living 4,000 years ago. But the truth that is there inside that culture is still relevant, because those were universal truths, and those were relevant for humans then and humans now. But the context changes, right? And so our point is really to give you that experience so that you can connect with it in a way that you are used to it, right? Now, see, I don't blame your parents or my parents for the way they have been, and they are, because um, obviously India is still a very young country in its latest format of being independent from the British Raj, right? Now, the story is that in the 12th or 13th century, right, India, which was called the Sone ki Chidiya, we were 30% of the world's GDP. Today, US is only 25% of the world's GDP. So we were then richer than the US relatively compared to the world, and more powerful, right? From 30% of the world's GDP, we shrunk to 1.5% of the world's GDP. In 1998, India's GDP per capita was the same as China's GDP per capita. Before that, China's GDP per capita was lower than India. From 98 to 2022, 24 years, China is now 10x of India, GDP per capita, 10x in 24 years, right? So unfortunately, what we have seen is that, everyone's recent memory of India is that we are poor, we are developing, opportunities are very less. You have to first get a job, you have to be secure first. You can't take risk, you can't just be playing games, like, but it's changing, right? Like, I recently was talking to someone who was telling me that his 13-year-old son is great at Fortnite, and he has a channel which has 5K subs, and he's like, look, if he wants to play esports and make a lot of money, I'm okay by supporting him. Unheard of in my generation, right? Like, if I went to my parents and said I want to be a full-time video gamer, my mother would literally slap the crap out of me, right? Like, I mean, she would be like, what is wrong with you? At least today, there is a discussion that people are having. And the reason is that from that 1.5%, we have gone to 3% of the world's GDP. We are still very behind. And this is I think I am very strongly in the belief that the next 4 to 5 decades are India's decade, right? Because we have so much catch up to do. We have always had potential, but unfortunately we were robbed of that potential, and now we are getting that back, right? And it's no surprise that Ireland's PM is half Indian, British PM is half Indian, Portugal PM is half Indian. All of the CEOs of the major tech companies are either first, are Indians who emigrated there, or are, second citizens or second lineage of citizens from India itself. So obviously we have that capability. I think we are on the right track to grow it. And what I'll say is it's just time, right? It may not happen in your generation, may take another 2 generations, but we will also attain a stage where people are very open to experiment and take risk, because we will be less worried about survival, right? And we are already moving there. Like your generation, I already see that. It's great to see that you have no fear, right? Like most of you have no fear. That a lot of you, when I talk to you, to your generation, is like, job to lagi jayegi sir, matlab लगी जाएगी, यहाँ नहीं लगी तो वहां लग जाएगी, वहां नहीं लगी तो यहाँ लग जाएगी. अभी I want to do what I really am interested to do, which is amazing to see, right? That's great to see, and that is how we will actually develop much faster.
Sir, we have questions from the audience. Can we take?
Yes, please.
So, Mr. Akshat, you have raised your hand. Could you please speak and ask your query?
Yes, sir. Sir, I desperately want to build something in field of VR and AR, but everything past ideation stage seems blurry. मतलब मुझे पता नहीं कि VR का हार्डवेयर कैसे बनता है, सॉफ्टवेयर कैसे बनता है, और इतने रिसोर्सेज है नहीं कि उस फील्ड के प्रोफेशनल को हायर कर ले. तो इसमें मतलब कैसे आगे बढ़े मतलब.
पर आप मुझे एक बात बताओ कि अगर आपको, मतलब आपको क्यों लगता है कि फिर AR और VR बढ़ेगा? आप कह रहे हो कि आपको टेक्नोलॉजी का नहीं पता, हार्डवेयर नहीं पता, सॉफ्टवेयर नहीं पता, तो आप इसके बारे में एक्साइटेड क्यों हो?
मतलब ये फील्ड मतलब मुझे तो बहुत एक्साइट करती है. मतलब मैं 6th क्लास से मतलब थोड़ा बहुत पता है कि उसके कैसे लेंस वगैरह कैसे काम करते हैं वगैरह, लेकिन कि मैं खुद ही बना लूं इतना नहीं पता है.
तो यार इसका तो बहुत आसान तरीका है. आप सबसे पहले जाके एक VR या AR की या तो स्टार्टअप या एक एस्टैब्लिश कंपनी में पहले जॉब कर लो कुछ साल। पहले आपको, इफ यू डू नॉट नो दोज डिटेल्स, एंड बहुत सारी डिटेल्स बाहर है भी नहीं क्योंकि अभी कोई बहुत बड़ा सक्सेस है भी नहीं, राइट? लाइक ऑक्यूलस भी देखें तो देयर आर ओनली 13 मिलियन हेडसेट्स दे हैव सोल्ड, 13 मिलियन ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड, विच इज नथिंग, राइट? तो मतलब अभी इतने ज्यादा कोई सक्सेसेस है नहीं, बट अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल आर वर्किंग इन दिस फील्ड। तो मेरी तो पहली एडवाइस होगी कि ये जरूरी नहीं है कि कॉलेज से ही स्टार्टअप करना जरूरी है, और ये भी जरूरी नहीं है कि यार अगर 22 साल में स्टार्टअप नहीं की तो 24 में तो बूढ़े हो जाएंगे और उसके बाद गेम खत्म। ठीक है, लाइक आई स्टार्टेड माय फर्स्ट स्टार्टअप, मतलब इफ आई नॉट काउंट जो मैंने हेज फंड में स्टार्टअप की थी, इट वाज अ स्टार्टअप, बट क्योंकि मैं हेज फंड वर्ल्ड में था और मैंने उसी वर्ल्ड में किया था, तो आई डोंट कंसिडर इट एज बिग अ रिस्क। बट द फर्स्ट रिस्क आई टुक वाज इन 2017 व्हेन आई वाज 38 years old। तो मुझे बहुत लोगों ने कहा यार ये मतलब 38 पे क्या स्टार्टअप वार्टअप करनी है, बट आई वुड से कि आप 22 के 25 हो जाओगे और स्टार्टअप कर लोगे तो फिर भी वेरी यंग ही है। वो 2-3 साल आप एक कंपनी में लगाओ वेर यू अंडरस्टैंड कि हार्डवेयर में क्या है, सॉफ्टवेयर में क्या है, व्हाट इज द रीजन, यूज के प्रॉब्लम क्या है यूजर की, वो टेक्नोलॉजी से प्रॉब्लम कैसे सॉल्व होगी। सी अगर आप, मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि अगर आप किसी एक्सपर्ट को हायर भी कर लोगे तो कंपनी आप चलाओगे कि एक्सपर्ट चलाएगा? आपको ही चलानी है ना। अब अगर लेकिन समझ में सिर्फ एक्सपर्ट को ही आता है तो, और अगर एक्सपर्ट इतना स्मार्ट होता है कि अपनी कंपनी बना लेता जिसके बेसिस पे आप अपनी कंपनी बनाओगे, तो वो बना ही लेता यार, आपकी क्या जरूरत होती है उसको। आप समझ रहे हो मेरी बात? तो माय एडवाइस
Yes,
वुड
sir.
बी, where you are, from what you have told me, please go and work in a AR/VR startup or a company like an Oculus. Get that knowledge and then think about exactly why you want to go. See, startups shouldn't be. It's a very difficult journey for जितना भी ये TVF पिक्चर्स वगैरह में डिफिकल्ट है, क्योंकि मैंने भी अभी एक एपिसोड देखा है TVF पिक्चर्स 2 का, ग्रेट ग्रेट सीरीज, राइट? बट जितना वो डिफिकल्ट है ना, वो अभी लगता है वो जैसे मूवी में दिखाते हैं ना कि हीरो डाउन हो गया बट वो जीतता हमेशा है लास्ट में, है ना? रियल वर्ल्ड में ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है कि आप जीतते हो लास्ट में। और जितना वो डिफिकल्ट दिखा रहे हैं ना, उतना आपको लगता नहीं है कि वो कितना डिफिकल्ट है। व्हेन यू लिव इट देन यू रियलाइज हाउ टफ इट इज। तो फैशन में है अभी स्टार्टअप्स, थैंक्स टू शार्क टैंक, TVF पिक्चर्स, सारा मीडिया, असनीर ग्रोवर भाई की, सब कुछ मस्त है और करोड़ों रुपए ऐसे ही बन रहे हैं बस। But it is a very tough journey, so you really need to know why you will win, right? Like, you can't, there are thousands of startups probably opening every day, right, in just India, right? And maybe it's more, maybe there are tens of thousands, I don't know this data yet. uh, but you would really need to know why is it that you would win, for which you would need to have a detailed knowledge and analysis. Make sense, Akshat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any more questions? I guess, sir, the question answer session ends here. So,
Great.
yes, sir. So, sir,
Yogesh, hello.
yes,
Sorry, I have a question, sir.
Okay.
Sir, like AI and Web3 are the emerging technologies of this age, right? So, uh, can you see like how we can integrate AI and Web3, and is there any company working on this side, like integrating AI and Web3?
See, one thing I will say is, by the way, AI has been part of companies since I have been working. Right now, that statement may come as a surprise to you, but I started my career out of IIM Bangalore in finance, and everything that we call, like, we talk about machine learning and AI has been done in finance since the last 2 decades, right? Because I have at least seen it, so I can tell you that in finance it has been employed for a really long time, right? um, Now, AI is a great tool, right? Whether you put chatbots, whether you put AI as chat GPT to do better, to help you in creation, whether you talk about mid journey to help you get better images, AI is going to remain a more powerful tool and it will be used in the metaverse. So like, for example, we are also coming out with another app, right, by in the beginning of next year, which will have something to do with AI on the 3D model side, right? Because we have right now seen chat, we have seen images, but we haven't seen this come in chat models. Is that separate from the metaverse? It isn't, because AI is really helping us do a lot of creation, right? Rather than humans sitting and doing work like factory, like robots are going to replace monotonous work in factories, and they're already replacing machines, and robots have already been replacing work. They'll continue to do so. AI will replace a lot of work being done in the digital world, right? So that is already happening, but at least my view is that people shouldn't view AI as this separate industry that is going to take over everything, right? Like, I don't think Chat GPT is replacing Google search, right? Now, Google isn't stupid, right? They have been using AI. Your feed is, by the way, machine learning, right? It's one of the TikTok's algorithm. The feed is so smart that even Facebook, Google have never been able to crack it, which is why you read that, oh, China's government must have helped in creating that algorithm because no one has been able to crack that algorithm. And that's obviously at the bare minimum machine learning, but it could also be a sophisticated AI program which is actually giving you that algorithm. But is TikTok an AI company? Some can argue that it probably is, but I'll just say that that's kind of not the point. The point is that AI is a very powerful technology and it will actually be part of every tech business that you do. Whether you are an e-commerce startup, Amazon has ML and AI because they tell you which they suggest you products, right? They also show you different offers and different pricing. They have a dynamic pricing mode, which is completely automated, right? Chat bots are present there. A lot of that stuff is already being done, whether you are e-commerce, whether you are any sort of tech company, and that will continue to happen. And so it will also happen in the metaverse. Does that make sense?
Uh, yes, yes, that makes sense. But like Amazon is using AI for showing customer suggestions, like product suggestions.
Right.
But in Web3, what will be the use of AI? How will be used by companies?
Again, see, endless, right? Like, think about Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, obviously great investor, unfortunately has passed away, right? Now,
Yes.
could we have a photorealistic avatar of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala where every talk that Rakesh Jhunjhunwala has ever given, every book he has written, every article he has written, and if he was alive, maybe Ratan Tata today, he actually talks to the AI so that the AI becomes Ratan Tata, right? And after Ratan Tata's, whenever everyone has to die one day, so whenever that time is there, the AI lives forever. So we never lose Ratan Tata. By the way, there is an island, I am just forgetting the name. There is an island which unfortunately knows that because of climate change, before 2050 and probably much earlier, that island will be completely submerged underwater. What they have already commissioned this year is that they are uploading that island onto their own metaverse, right? And their idea is that on that metaverse, they live forever. Now, to live forever, you can't just be a static experience, right? You would have to have some amount of AI built in it so that you can come and interact, whether that's the plants, whether that's the wildlife, whether that's some humans, which are non-playing characters. Games already give you non-playing characters which have a machine learning element. And in some cases, we also use AI, right? So that is an obvious thing that's going to happen in the metaverse, right? The other thing that's going to happen is that, again, imagine that you want to ask physics wala, who is very popular, Alak Pandey, a question, but you want to ask him in a live version, right? Now, today, like me, I can only answer your one question at a time. But now imagine that I wanted to answer questions of 1 million people at the same time. So an actual AI can customize what I'm answering to you, or maybe even give the same answer but in different languages, right? Real time. So there are, I mean, like I can think of infinite use cases of AI and ML in the Web3 and metaverse itself.
Uh, yes, sir, got it. Thank you.
I have a doubt, sir.
Sure.
I haven't done much research yet on it, but I have a doubt. Suppose if you have all the theoretical knowledge of a blockchain, the concept behind it, how it works, and तो से वो क्या चल रहा है अभी market में, and उससे हम और भी क्या क्या कर सकते हैं. You have all the theoretical knowledge, but you're not a proper blockchain developer. So, what do you think? Like, is it easy for you to for doing startup in this field?
Um, but I didn't. But if you have the theoretical knowledge, why can't you? I mean, I'm a little confused. So if you have the theoretical knowledge, then you should be able to implement it, right? Like, see, writing smart contracts is like writing any other code. Now, when you move from JavaScript to Python to, let's say, Solidity, if your construction of algorithms first is very strong, if you really understand data structures really well, then learning a new language to write it is learning about the format and what that language can do or cannot do, right? So by assuming, like, I am a little confused when you say that you understand it theoretically, then it's only a matter of
Well,
practical implementation, right?
I'm saying that there are many more people who are good in blockchain developer. You know it, but you are not perfect, or say you're not all good at it.
Right.
And someone there are who are more good in blockchain developing. So do you will you hire them or will you learn more to do that?
See, I would say that any company would need different skills, right? Now, if you aren't the best at blockchain development, you should probably not apply for a job as a blockchain developer, right? But in the blockchain company, there are many other roles, right? There will be a role of product manager. Maybe you are better at understanding the consumer. You understand the tech. You understand the consumer a little bit. You understand marketing a little bit. And so maybe the product management role is a better fit for you. Maybe testing is a better fit for you because you understand the theory of it, and hence you can write a lot of edge cases for smart contracts, right? That is a very big business because in smart contracts and blockchain, everything you write is immutable, right? So unlike sort of what we do with an APK or a code, where if something goes wrong, we just update the code. In some cases, real time. In some cases, we send an upgraded version for people to download. That is not possible in the smart contract world, right? Whatever contract we have sent out, we will either have to cancel it and give a new contract, but we can't change that existing contract, right? So testing edge cases is a very big use case. So my suggestion would be that you need to find out where you are best at adding value and where you are better than others, right? It necessarily doesn't need to be blockchain development only, right? In a blockchain company, there are a lot of roles that you would need to do to actually make it successful.
All right, thank you.
Right?
Any further questions?
Sorry to interrupt, but I have just posted the feedback form in the chat box, so please fill it. And yes, you can continue with the Q&A now.
Uh, Sir, I guess no further questions are left. So Swapnil will present an e-memento to you as a token of gratitude.
Right?
Yes.
Swapnil, please.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Yeah, sure.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is. Wow.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sir, it was an insightful session, and we are extremely privileged that a person of your status has been sharing his well-versed knowledge about Web3 with us. We are highly grateful to you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. It'll be great if you can also send me this e-memento on my email. I would
Yes,
really
sir.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Definitely, sir. And sir, before leaving, can we have a screenshot of this?
Yeah, of course.
I would request the participants to switch on their camera so we can take a screenshot. And in the meanwhile, you can fill in the feedback form. It would help us to improve our skills bootcamp. Okay, I think we can take the screenshot now. Cool, it's done. Okay, so thank you, sir, for your time and effort for today.
Great.
It was a great workshop, and
Great.
it was nice
Thanks,
to interact
everybody.
with
All the
you.
best. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, sir.